ThunderCats 2011 was a reboot of the original ThunderCats back in 1985, pitched to Cartoon Network by Michael Jelenic and Ethan Spaulding. It was the usual take the original main cast and put a new spin on it kind of reboot. Michael and Ethan wanted to remake the show in a more modern sense with more mature themes and to move away from the cartoonish feel of the original to something more akin to a movie. And you can see that interest in its hour-long pilot airing on 29th of July 2011 and gaining 2.4 million viewers within the US. I recall seeing trailers and being interested as a kid, catching the pilot after school and thinking it was great. It had your typical big bad Mumra, who's just evil, and the heroes are immediately brought low when their home city is legit just blown to bits, and our protagonist Lion-O's father is killed, so it becomes deeply personal from the get-go. It genuinely shocked me as a kid to see how badly they were bashed just like in the first episode. And it's certainly able to mesh that mature theme while able to maintain something of a comedic tone at times. The characters too were all fun to watch. I especially loved Lion-O and Tiger as brotherly banter, their competition with one another, and their eventual resolution between themselves was all great to watch. Wily Kit and Wily Cat are fun, especially their alone episodes. And their backstory is just right in the gut. They're still the comic relief guys, but I'm glad they were able to do that while not sacrificing their characterization. I also enjoy the villains. They definitely do a good job at making them all feel like, well, a threat, while not having them just pound the heroes into the dirt. And while the heroes do win often, there are enough Pyrrhic victories and just straight up defeats to where the threat the antagonist pose doesn't get less as time goes on. ThunderCats 2011 has good characters is what I'm getting at here. Even a lot of the side characters are pretty interesting, like the steampunk fishmen and the robotic Build-A-Bears. You heard me. And it was through all this that it was able to garner plenty of attention and interest from people. It certainly piqued my interest as a kid, so much so that years later, when I first started making money, I hopped on Amazon to buy the whole series. I still have the DVDs too and plan to take them around with me. Yet, despite the fact it managed to grab a reasonably sized fan base and audience, after a little hiatus in the middle of Season 1 and then after its finale, the show would be cancelled on June 12, 2012. But why though? I asked while staring at the DVD set I bought. What caused Cartoon Network to pull the plug on something that seemed to be going well? Now, I'm of the mind that one cannot look at an event and say, that one thing caused it. Things rarely happen because of one factor. Although there are final nails in the coffin, you shouldn't ignore the other ones already hammered in. So it is with ThunderCats 2011 that I shall be referring to as ThunderCats 11 for simplicity's sake. I found three major reasons that led to the show's cancellation, and I could say that once you hear them, you'll agree that the cancellation was essentially inevitable. Now, the first and most obvious reason you would notice is if you just looked up what shows were coming out then, and I really do mean coming out. 2011 was a time for Cartoon Network where replacements for previously ended series were coming out, and generally just stuff to fill the time slots. Some of the shows in questions were The Problem Solver, Secret Mountain Fort Awesome, The Looney Tunes Show, The Amazing World of Gumball, and a little Lego-style show you might know as Lego Ninjago, Masters of Spinjitzu. Yeah, you know what this is and what it would become. And let's not forget to mention the established shows like Adventure Time and Regular Show. While still getting started, were picking up steam and viewership at the time. So you could generously say that ThunderCats 11 had a lot of competition at the time, as Cartoon Network was throwing pretty much everything at the wall to see what sticked. And you could less generously say that CN focused their attention on what did stick more, leaving shows behind that weren't making the cut as they wanted. I mean, that is why The Problem Solver and Secret Mountain Fort Awesome would get cancelled too. Adventure Time, Regular Show, The Amazing World of Gumball, and Ninjago were just doing better. The second reason I found would explain why the viewership tended to just drop for this show is that Cartoon Network gave ThunderCats 11 an abysmal time slot, Friday at 8:30 p.m. After consuming so much content beforehand, especially after just coming back from school to sit down and binge and do other things, it's easy for someone to just get tired and switch off around that time for bed or to just do something else. Hell, that hour-long pilot aired at 8 p.m. unless they were like me and had a pretty relaxed bedtime schedule before the weekends and was super motivated to see the next episode, it's unlikely that it had much of a returning viewership, which also helps explain why that 2.4 million would steadily drop as time went on. So it's actually quite impressive it even got the good viewership and ratings it had, because not many people would have given it a chance because how shunted down the list it was. The third, and one of the biggest contributing factors towards its cancellation in my opinion, was its poor toy sales. You see, Cartoon Network made a lot of money via advertisements on their network, obviously, but another way their shows were supposed to rake in the dough was through merchandising. And when you compare ThunderCats 11's sales to, say, Adventure Time, Looney Tunes Show, Gumball, oh, and especially Ninjago. I mean, come on, that last one is Lego. Its market already existed before the theme came out. There was a huge difference between ThunderCats 11's sales and other shows that existed. I mean, when I was a kiddo around the time the show was out, the only place I ever saw ThunderCats toys was in the back area of Ross. You know, that one area a lot of these clothing stores have to distract the kids while their parents buy the overpriced clothwear they actually needed. While its hour-long pilot did garner a lot of views, only the Looney Tunes show would have anything over 2 million like that at the time. ThunderCats 11 definitely could not maintain that number. There were too many shows out then that gained more of a stable popularity and merchandising revenue that Cartoon Network would shove ThunderCats 11 to the curb and focus on what worked better at the time. Now, as I said, ThunderCats 11 wasn't the only one cancelled. In fact, a lot of them sucked real hard and ThunderCats 11 was doing vastly better than they were. So could Cartoon Network have moved it to a better time slot and supported it better? Yeah, but the lackluster toy sales and the fact that better shows existed or had been made with better returns meant that the network lacked any substantial incentive to do so. And while yes, I do think the time slot they put it at contributed greatly to its decline in viewership, I also believe it had something to do with the show in general. Okay, the plot isn't bad, I want to iterate that, I think it's alright. But that doesn't mean I'm unable to see its bad sides. The world building can be dumb at times. Like the show states, the cats have the largest empire and control the best lands and resources, but apparently Thundera is the only major city the cats reside in? Because we never see any other city controlled by the felines, or even villages at that. There are just no other cities where cats exist besides this one, no villages or military forts. Plus the birds in this setting have this giant floating city in the sky, yet few know of, nor have even heard rumors about this place. It's a humongous flying city, and the birds aren't even trying to keep it well hidden up there. Plus the writing at times tries a bit too hard to be funny. And that love triangle between Lion-O, Chitara, and Tigress really should have just been cut out. Or, you know, just rewrite it so it's better. So I can get why this would be a turnoff for many people, and if they were counting on original lovers of the show getting back into, that was back in the 80s, people. So trying to depend even a little bit on people who like the 80s TV show was not going to work, because ThunderCats 11 is a completely different show. That's like expecting people who like carrot cake to enjoy coconut because you put the same type of frosting on it. But even if those problems with the story were hammered out, the sheer amount of shows piloting at the time slot it was placed at, then the low toy sales more than tells me that ThunderCats 11 was doomed to be cancelled by the network it was on. It was just dealt too bad of a hand to possibly survive. I still know of many people who enjoy ThunderCats 11 and was disappointed about its cancellation, as ThunderCats 11 is a pretty good show, but pretty good and great is that 3% math purity difference. But it was never meant to be, as better shows were out and the network was giving it the short end of the stick. So it was kind of fated to be cancelled from the get-go. I certainly don't regret purchasing the DVDs and plan to hang on to them as time goes on. This show is a bit dear to me, not because I think it's some underrated gem or forgotten masterpiece, it's not, but because what Michael and Ethan were trying to do, put a new spin on an 80s cartoon, a neat little reboot into more modern times with more modern theming, and I can respect that, especially with season 1 really showing that the writers and producers behind it had a plan and could implement it fairly well. And I do believe it would have been an alright show had it been given a better chance to express itself to people. But what do you think? Agree with my assessment or not? Comment down below. I'd like to read someone else's take on this. If you like this video, click that thumbs up, and if you're new to my channel, head over to check out my video essays, music analysis, complex character series, and overanalyzing Sharon the Princesses of Power. You might find them enjoyable as well, and consider subscribing for more content like this to come.